The University of Southern Maine has contributed $250,000 to study the intersection in front of the USM Law Library to determine what changes can be made to make this dangerous crossroads safer for pedestrians, bikers, cars, and buses. As a first step, City Councilor Ed Suslovic led a walking tour to gather information that will serve as the basis for proposed improvements. Brian Knobloch talked with him about the project.
Councilor Suslovic, we did a walkthrough today through this intersection around USM. What was the walkthrough? What was the purpose of the walkthrough?
Well, I think two things. Number one is to make sure everyone is familiar up close and personal with the challenges that the intersection poses to the neighborhood, to the community. And the second, I think, was to see if, while we're actually right on the site, if there's things that jump out at us, which we found there were some issues that were much more evident by being, walking through the intersection.
You had several stakeholders there today, local residents, the Metro bus people. What were you hearing?
Well, what I heard was, number one, people would like the intersection to be safer for pedestrians and bicyclists. That was what I heard from the neighborhood as well as from the university, obviously. I also heard from people who said they'd like to see if we could improve the operation of the intersection. Right now it's very inefficient for both pedestrians and automobiles as well. So, and then also, again, the site walk helped. There's two very significant parks there maintained by the City of Portland, and we wanted to make sure that visually that we improve the appearance of the intersection. It's the gateway to the University of Southern Maine. It's an important part of the neighborhood. We've got those parks. So my hope is that this process will enable us to clearly identify those goals and then come up with a plan that will meet all those goals.
As you walked from intersection to intersection or corner to corner, you sort of looked like a little mother hen with all her chicks going through there. But it seemed sort of dangerous with all the traffic and bikes and that sort of thing. Is that how it feels when you're actually there, since you're a resident of the area?
Yes. One thing that we commented on, again, with neighbors there, is that it's a very busy intersection for all the students at King Middle School. So during the morning rush hour, for example, you've got peak traffic volumes moving through there, as well as a lot of middle school students trying to cross safely as well. So walking ourselves through that intersection reminds us how vulnerable you can feel crossing that huge sea of asphalt, as well as how inefficient it is, because when you hit the walk sign, in order to get a walk signal just to cross one leg of that six-leg intersection, all legs have to stop. So
you're going to have some additional meetings as well to get more input. Is that right?
Right. This is the first of three meetings that the traffic engineer is hosting to collect input and then be able to present some scenarios to us, further refine those, and then, of course, all of this will start over again with recommendations to the Transportation Committee of the City Council and then the full City Council as well. So there'll be lots of opportunity for public input.
Jake Ryan is a neighborhood resident. Jake, what are your specific concerns about the intersection?
Specifically, we're concerned about traffic patterns and how they might affect our neighborhood. So if currently the street that we live on gets used as a cut-through sometimes, and we'd like to make sure that that doesn't happen any further. We also have a boy who is just about ready to start going to King Middle School, so he's a pedestrian that moves through that area a bit, so we want to make sure that pedestrians have a way to get through there that's practical.
What are you hoping to hear tonight at this public hearing?
Oh, just that the city's taken residents' issues into consideration and listening to all parties.
Greg Bakos is a traffic consultant with VHB. Greg, from a traffic engineering perspective, what kind of challenges has this intersection proposed here?
Well, the intersection is challenged just by its geometry to begin with. It's a six-legged intersection, which is relatively unusual. It's also constrained by private property on the sides as well as public parks. So there's not a lot of room to vary the existing lane widths and road width. What happens there, though, is that geometry leads to inefficiencies, and as a result, during peak hours, the intersection more or less fails from a roadway, motor vehicle perspective. You throw into that mix the multimodal uses like bikes and pedestrians and transit buses, and there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of frustration among the different users, so you also have some safety concerns. We're examining the crosswalks, their orientation and the way they're controlled We're examining the bike lanes that come into the intersection, and really everything is being studied at this early stage of the development.
In your experience, what kind of solutions might be workable in this sort of scenario?
Well, we're hoping that we can find some geometric improvements that can be made, even if they're minor, that can help with the efficiencies and the safety. But everything's fair game. We're going to look at some radical changes as well, and you know, just run the whole gamut of alternative solutions. Technologically, I'm not sure the intersection can be improved that much. There's been a recent project that improved the signals, but we're looking at, you know, all kinds of other methods, I guess.
Do you find this sort of scenario that even though people hate the intersection, when you propose changes, they sort of get a little nervous about that too? It's sort of something they love to hate?
Absolutely. Although from everything I've heard so far today, people are excited that we're even looking at it because it is so bad. But one thing that happens if you take traffic away from one location, it tends to go somewhere else. So there's people are apprehensive when you make changes. Is it going to affect their neighborhood, their street, you know, their children, that sort of thing?
For Community Update, I'm Brian Knobloch.